Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. And Skyrim is an extraordinarily large game, with more factions than I have fingers on my right hand, and hundreds of accompanying characters, side quests, and locations. At the time of its release in 2011, The Elder Scrolls V was quite the behemoth. But 6.5 years later, some players have still yet to uncover all of the game's Easter eggs, secrets, and little references. So today, that's what we're gonna dive right into. Sit back and relax as we take yet another look at 10 tiny details you may still have missed in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Part 29. Starting off, the quest, Blindsided, is largely the climax of the Thieves Guild storyline. In it, the player tracks down Mercer Frey to an old dwarven ruin in an effort to stop him from stealing ancient artifacts known as the Eyes of the Falmer, legendary gems laying within the eye sockets of an ancient Falmer statue, as well as, perhaps more importantly, the skeleton key. The only way to stop him, of course, is, well, by murdering him to death. But after Mercer Frey lay dead and the quest mostly complete, the player will be able to take the Eyes of the Falmer for themselves. From here, their only real use is to be sold, with each fetching a rather remarkable price of 2,500 gold. But, should the Dragonborn decide to hang on to these items, you'll notice that they have some rather strange properties. When dropped in water, they'll mysteriously start to glow pink in a pulsing fashion. Now, this offers literally no benefit upon the player, and is definitely pretty random, lacking in explanation, but definitely a fun fact nonetheless. Perhaps the Falmer knew something we didn't. Next on our list, word walls are magical. Well, walls with various words inscribed on them in the language of the dragons. Should the Dragonborn approach one, you'll of course learn a new word corresponding to a specific shout. Now, as we've discussed before on this channel, the words on these walls, when translated from the dragon language, are actually small eulogies to individuals who have been buried near them, with some relevance to the shout itself. So for instance, say you find a word wall that teaches a word related to a stealth-based shout, or something to that effect. The words on that wall would likely translate to something along the lines of, "Here lies Jonathan Sneaky Fingers. He died trying to steal an axe." Just an example. Well, funnily enough, word walls for words related to the Animal Allegiance shout, which when used summons nearby animals to fight for the Dragonborn for a period of time, all actually contain eulogies for animals and pets when translated. It's rather adorable. For third spot, Honeystrand Cave is a bear den that can be found south of Iverstead. Within it are both towering bears and the remains of many of their not-so-fortunate victims, including many people. Well, among the skeletal human remains is one group of bones that may appear a bit familiar. Towards the center of the cave, with light shining directly on it, is a skeleton half buried into the ground, in a position that you might recognize. It in fact seems to allude to that of the one Han Solo was in, when frozen in carbonite in Star Wars Episodes 5 and 6. Unfortunately for this poor soul, I think he's beyond being saved by Princess Leia. Coming in at number 4, Embershard Mine is a large mine, occupied by bandits northwest of Helgen. While a possible location for a variety of raiding quests, the mine itself has no quests of its own, and is very much a stereotypical dungeon, though it does have at least something unique about it. Should you sneak into Embershard Mine without alerting any of the bandits, you'll notice a couple towards the entrance will be having a unique conversation. Take a listen. It's rather humorous considering the context.
Aren't you worried someone will wander in here? The entrance isn't exactly hidden, you know.
This again? I told you, we have someone standing guard out there. And don't forget the rock trap we rigged up. So, stop your worrying and get some rest. Your shift is coming up and I don't want you dozing off again like last time.
Halfway through at number 5, one of the things I think Bethesda does best is its nonverbal storytelling. How so often throughout the world the player can find objects and remains that tell such an in-depth tale, without any quests, direction, or dialogue to spell it out for you. The environment itself is your storyteller. I always like to include a couple of these in these types of videos, and one instance I've yet to share can be found southwest of Froki's shack in the Rift. Here lies a hidden shrine of Talos, with a variety of offerings to the Nordic god all around it, as is customary at most shrines. Well, among the usual flowers, coins, and books, the player can also depressingly find Imperial equipment. An Imperial Corinthian helmet, which is extremely rare, sits atop an Imperial sword, plunged into the ground next to an Imperial shield. From the looks of it, an Imperial soldier seems to have left their entire kit here to the god. Likely, this was his or her way of rejecting the Empire after the outlawing of Talos worship. Notably, this couldn't have been any ordinary grunt, but such a heavy shield and unique helmet almost had to have belonged to a high-ranking member. Perhaps an officer, captain, or heck, maybe even a commander. Whoever this mysterious person was, they clearly couldn't bring themselves to fight for a cause that rejected their god. Sixth, while we're still in the Rift, in the hills east of Riften lie the ruins of what was once a stone tower. However, now is little more than some rubble. Though when you arrive, you won't be alone. 2 bandits will also be found here, as well as a chest containing some leveled loot, though that's not important. After dealing with the bandits, you may notice that if you look into their inventories, one of them will be carrying a copy of the two-handed skill book, King. This is one of only 4 locations this book can organically be obtained. King is also the last book in a comedic series regarding the misadventures of a man by the name of Elasif, and is a rather humorous read. Clearly these bandits needed something to pass the time in such a remote location, and they must have also wanted to become better swordsmen, though clearly they didn't become good enough swordsmen. Next, I feel this one is more commonly known, but someone recently sent me an email suggesting it, and I figured why not. The plains of Whiterun are home to a variety of small ponds, and northwest of the city itself lie one that certainly sticks out. Literally. Here you'll find a small body of water, with a skeletal hand emerging from it, holding on to a random leveled sword. This, of course, is a reference to the legend of King Arthur, who was given his legendary sword, Excalibur, by a character known as the Lady in the Lake, whom, according to some iterations, emerged from a lake. Excalibur is often associated with the sovereignty of Britain, and whoever carries it is declared king. So go ahead, claim your prize. Though, frankly, strange women lying in ponds distributing swords isn't really the basis for a system of government, but oh well. For our 8th spot, Hofingr is the smallest of all of Skyrim's holds, located in the northwest. It most notably contains the city of Solitude, Skyrim's de facto capital, though the Civil War might disrupt that a bit. Well, its name seems to be an allusion to its shape. You see, Hofingr sounds very similar to half finger. In fact, in Icelandic, the word for half finger is Hofingr, and the shape of the Hofingr hold, well, I guess kind of looks a bit like a finger if you look at it from the right direction. Frankly, I don't know why Bethesda chose such a name, but hey, they call the shots, not me. 9th, Bleak Falls Barrow is a dungeon I think everybody watching this video has cleared their fair share of times. You're sent here on one of the game's first quests, and in many ways it serves as an introduction of what to expect in other Nordic ruins and dungeons. As you make your way towards the end of Bleak Falls Barrow, you'll find a large word wall, the first you'll be exposed to in the game, which teaches the player a word of the unrelenting force shout. However, did you know that all this time, hidden behind the word wall, behind a separate waterfall, is in fact a small chest, tucked neatly away, with a large amount of leveled loot inside. Now, normally, I wouldn't include something so small even in the Tiny Detail series. But considering this chest is located in Bleak Falls Barrow, a dungeon I have cleared literally hundreds of times and have missed it every single one of them, I think it is definitely worth a mention, especially since I'm no doubt going to be back. And finally, last on our list, amulets of Talos are, well, enchanted amulets that can be found all around Skyrim. Each amulet will reduce the time between your dragon shouts by 20%. A nice bonus. Well, should the player approach a member of the Thalmor, an elven organization whose main objective in life is to kill Talos worshippers, while wearing an amulet of Talos, they will immediately become hostile to the player. Assuming you're not wearing an amulet of Talos, you can still speak to Thalmor agents and they will not try and murder you. Though they will be remarkably condescending, and if you tell them they worship Talos, then they will, well, still try and murder you. But hey, anything to trigger the elves. Anyway, with that, we're going to wrap up. Yet another 10 tiny details you may still have missed in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Which of the ones featured on this list were your personal favorites? And what tiny details, references, and Easter eggs do you know of that I've yet to cover? Leave a comment down below. We also just today, or perhaps yesterday by the time this video goes up, hit 200,000 subscribers, which is a pretty huge number. So the video uploaded tomorrow, or maybe the day after tomorrow, depending on how quickly I work, will in fact be a face reveal and a whole little celebration of that. that. So if you want to see what I look like, well, just go add me on Instagram. But if you want to wait until then, that's understandable too. Anyway, as always, like ratings are very much appreciated, and if you really like the video, a subscription would be nice, and if you really, really like the video, there's also a Patreon, just saying, I don't know. Anyway, again, thanks for stopping by, and hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody.